loves, welcome to another episode of Coffee Chats, a series of alternative perspectives. Before we get into today's episode, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you who contributed to last week's episode in the comments. Greatly appreciated. As normal, I've selected 2, and here they are. This comment is from Dorothy Cordice, who succinctly says, "It takes more than blood to be family." E.B. Lynn, 35, expands on that and says, "I am the same age as Meghan, and I have had family members who have used me, disrespected me, lied on me, embarrassed me, etc. I decided a long time ago to walk away from those family members. I still love them, but I do not like them. I believe Meghan is much like me. I don't believe she reads or listens to anything these toxic family members say or do. She has accepted that she has lost her relationship with her father. She still has her mother and her mother's side of the family. She has longtime friends that are better than her paternal side of the family. Meghan owes nothing to that family. Her family now is her husband and her children, her mother and her maternal family. I applaud her. I don't regret walking away from that toxic side of my family. What bothers me is that no one speaks about Harry's side of the family. I feel they are worse because they move in silence in trying to control Harry and destroy Meghan and their children. I have and will not listen to anything those families say or try to do to Meghan and Harry. My prayers are that they can survive those losses." Next, what's your beverage of choice today? I'm having my first hot drink of the day, which is coffee with ginger, lemon, honey, and a splash of almond oil. Feel free to use the comment section to let me know what you're enjoying while you watch this video. In this episode, I wanted to explore the question, what if? Let's watch this clip first, and then we'll come back and have a chat.
When I was 23 years old, I landed the White House internship and I was so excited. The White House internship is unpaid. So I thankfully had support from my parents and moved out there, got an apartment. But because I was moving out there by myself and we didn't really know anyone out there, my parents decided it would be a good idea for me to live in Arlington, a little bit safer, a little bit more family oriented, and commute to work. But at the time where I lived in Arlington, there was only one shuttle from the metro station to my apartment. In addition to being unpaid, the White House internship also had really long hours. Especially in my department, a lot of interns would find themselves at the office really late. I had one friend who was at the office until like 2 a.m. at times. In an effort to impress my supervisor, I also started staying late until one day my mom called me at around 9 and she said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm at work." And she said, "At the White House?" And I said, "Yes." And she was like, "Why are you still at work so late?" And I explained to her, "Mom, this is how they do things here. People work late." And she was quiet for a moment and she said, "Call me when you get home." I got home and I called her and she said, "Tomorrow when you go to work, tell your supervisor that moving forward you will have to leave with enough time to catch the last shuttle from the nearest metro station to your apartment." Y'all, I almost started crying. I was like, "Mom, you don't get it. This is the White House internship. Everyone stays late. They're gonna kick me out. I can't just put my foot down and say I'm not going to." And my mom does this thing where when you protest like that, she'll hear you out. She'll listen. And when I finished, she was like, "Are you finished?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Do you understand what to do?" And I was like, "Mom, what if they kick me out of the internship?" And she said something that instantly changed my whole entire brain chemistry. She said, "Then your father and I will come to DC, pack up your apartment, and bring you back home." The next day, I went into work. I went to my supervisor and I said, "Can I talk to you?" She said yes. I said, "I am going to have to leave the office by 5 p.m. every day. As a compromise, I can come in an hour earlier, but I really cannot stay longer than that." She paused and then she said, "Okay." I got home and I told my mom and she said, "Good." I was like, "Good? How did you know she was gonna say yes?" And my mom was like, "I didn't know she was gonna say yes." And I was like, "Would you really have come pack me up?" And she was like, "Yes." And she said to me, "I wanted you to learn how to advocate for yourself in a workplace. I wanted you to internalize the fact that there is no such thing as an opportunity so great that you can't set a standard for how you want to be treated or boundaries around how you want to exist in that space." And when I tell you that rewired my whole entire brain chemistry and has followed me to this day.
So, as is typical of the internet, people jumped in with their unfounded assumptions about the consequences of this young lady following her mum's advice, and here's how she responded. A certain demographic is very desperate to imagine a version of events where setting boundaries to protect my safety led to career suicide. The facts. I was asked to extend my internship, and I did. I went on to work as a paralegal at a big law firm. While working as a paralegal, I was offered a position in a different department in the White House and turned it down to focus on law school. I went to Penn for law school, then I landed a big law internship at a top firm in my city for my second summer. At the end of my internship, I was given a full-time offer for after law school graduation. After 2 years at the firm, I left and now work as in-house counsel. I set boundaries throughout and was valued and respected for my work. The social media presence is just the cherry on top. And it would appear that some people still didn't understand the point of the video. So this was her response to that. The point of the video is, no matter how great the opportunity is, nothing is worth sacrificing your well-being. So even if things had worked out differently, I'd have no regrets. Godspeed to you all. This reminded me of the film Sliding Doors, whose central character is played by, ironically, Gwyneth Paltrow, who has been a topic of online conversations in the last week or so in connection to Meghan. What if is more often than not an unhelpful way to begin asking a question because the past cannot be changed. But what if Meghan received an affirmative response to her request for access to mental health services while she was what they call a working member of the royal family? What if? In my humble opinion, while that may have provided a short-term solution, I honestly believe the firm would have made things even more deliberately difficult for her because it was a different type of worthiness test that they set for her. Let's watch this second clip so you can understand where I'm coming from.
I just have to share something with you. I've just seen something on the government website that will blow your mind. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Colin McFarlane and I'm the CEO of the charity Justice for Windrush. And people often say to me, what's it about? Was it like a mix-up of papers? Was it a kind of accident? So this is the government website. You can see that, gov.uk, right? This is the name of the report. The Historical Roots of the Windrush Scandal, Independent Research Report. So I was scrolling through this, right? And I just thought, well, let's do a little bit of research. And then I came across this gobsmacking quote. When people say, is it an accident? No. You see that? Number 2, I'm just going to highlight it for you. There you go. Just those first 2 lines. Major immigration legislation in 1962, 1968, and 1971 was designed to reduce the proportion of people living in the United Kingdom who did not have white skin. Let me just read that to you one more time. Let me make it slightly bigger just so you can absolutely take the same, because I was gobsmacked. Major immigration legislation in 1962, 1968, and 1971 was designed to reduce the proportion of people living in the United Kingdom who did not have white skin. So it's not a conspiracy. It's not an accident. It's on their website, but they buried it. You didn't know. I didn't know, because they didn't want us to know. So help us educate the nation, because once you know, you care, and we can change this.
For those of you who aren't familiar with the Windrush scandal, this is a brief overview. The Windrush generation refers to individuals who migrated to the UK from Commonwealth countries, particularly the Caribbean, between 1948 and 1973. And the Windrush scandal emerged in 2018 when it became clear that many of them were wrongly detained, denied rights, and threatened with deportation despite being legally entitled to stay. We know that there are at least 83 cases like this, and many of them haven't been resolved. This applies to the generation of my grandparents and my parents. My parents came to the UK in the early 1960s, and my grandmother came over 1950s, early 1950s, I believe. So they were invited to come here by the British government. I think Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister at the time, and that's another conversation for another day. But after the Second World War, Britain had been destroyed. No infrastructure to speak of, and many of the men had died in that war. So no one to rebuild. I believe the NHS started in the same year, 1948. So that's why you see, if you know the NHS in the UK, it's made up of many, many people of colour, particularly from Commonwealth countries. They didn't force themselves here, they were invited here. And I just find this so contradictory, hypocritical, that in the 21st century, 2018, this scandal was uncovered. 2018, the same year that Harry and Meghan got married. So when you have the Jamaican Prime Minister making it known last week of his intention to remove Charles as head of state, I do wonder sometimes if that decision would have been delayed if Meghan received positive treatment from the institution, and if Jamaican nationals had been treated fairly and not been illegally deported by the British government. As the head of the Commonwealth, whether he's allowed to get involved or not, Charles couldn't even show some concern for the members of the Commonwealth who were wrongfully deported. That says a lot. So no one should really be surprised how this institution has treated Harry's wife. The establishment will play these things down, but how it is experienced, how discrimination is experienced in this country is very insidious, it's very covert. Where, as far as I'm concerned, compared to the states where I have lived, I actually lived in Texas for a while, where I saw decommissioned, segregated restrooms, which was a shock to me because obviously we don't have that over here. But in my head, at least you know where you stand. But here is very subtle, it's very undercover, it's very covert, it's very sinister. How are you going to leave that on the government website, a statement like that? And with regard to Jamaica, some may say that Jamaica is not needed and will not weaken Charles's position in any way, shape or form. However, I would argue that just as dominoes is an extremely popular game amongst many Jamaicans, the domino effect of Jamaica exiting this imperialist collective will mean nothing but detriment as Charles departs and William arrives as the next king. Now, although Meghan was denied the help she so needed, to where she had extremely heartbreaking, unhealthy ideations, I strongly believe that together with Harry, Meghan has achieved a lot more in her philanthropy outside of the royal family, because being within that institution seems to be very prohibitive. They both have the freedom to work with who they want to work with and set their own objectives. Furthermore, the life she has now may not have been possible if she did not take the risk and do what she has always done, which is to advocate for herself. Because
there is no such thing as an opportunity so great that you can't set a standard for how you want to be treated or boundaries around how you want to exist in that space.
Meghan advocated for herself, but the firm thought they could break her by denying her request. In denying her request, the firm didn't realise that Meghan would be successful regardless of what they did. And as a result, 5 years after leaving the institution, Meghan is launching her second podcast, and I, for one, am looking forward to it.
I'm Meghan, and this is Confessions of a Female Founder, a show where I chat with female entrepreneurs and friends about the sleepless nights, the lessons learned, and the laser focus that got them to where they are today. We're diving into the highs.
It just started climbing and climbing and climbing, and there was 5,000, 10,000 people on our website. And I called Roger and said, what's going on?
And the lows.
I'm sitting there the next day. I've pissed off everybody. I'm broke. And no one's calling me.
Oh, no. And the kind of advice that turns small ideas into billion-dollar businesses.
I knew in that moment I'd rather stand for something than sell a whole ton of product and stand for nothing.
You have to detach from the outcome. You have to. It's a little bit like the way we talk to our children. It's, did you try your best?
And of course, we're gonna get some girl talk. Are you saying you're not single now? Have I missed something in the past couple weeks? What's happening?
Can we stay focused, please?
Okay. And through it all, I'm building a business of my own and getting all sorts of practical advice along the way that I'm very excited to share with you. So join me for Confessions of a Female Founder from Lemonada Media, which, by the way, is also female-founded. Launching April 8th, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's do this, ladies. This is not Shark Tank. Think of this as Dolphin Tank.
Yes.
These are very friendly.
Dolphin Tank.
These are very friendly waters. It's all going to be good.
So guys, it's over to you now. Have you ever experienced a difficult work situation? Did you feel empowered to raise your concerns, or did you persevere hoping things would get better? Do you find it fairly easy to speak up for yourself? Do you need to have a plan B in place before you take the risk of raising concerns? Can you think of a sliding doors moment where if you'd made a completely different decision, your life would have drastically changed? Have you ever regretted advocating for yourself and often ask yourself, what if? Guys, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, and as always, I will select 2 and feature them in the next episode. In the meantime, guys, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for meeting me for coffee today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we shall catch up again very soon.